Hey, I'm Veronica from UXPressia. Let me briefly introduce you to what we at UXPressia do. UXPressia is an online platform where you can build customer journey maps, impact maps, and personas for your organization. With more than 100 ready-to-use templates, you can speed up your persona creation and mapping processes. To help you build confidence on your journey and learn from other practitioners, we host community events on user, customer, employee experience, and all things journey mapping. Our speakers are industry experts that are willing to share their knowledge to help you design and build better products and services. We also speak at the events ourselves and share tips and tricks we learned through years of practice and numerous interviews with other mappers. On top of that, we have UXPressia Academy, where you can dive into learning how to build journey maps, personas, and conduct interviews. And do that all at your own pace. Don't forget to check it out and enjoy the event. And it's not the first time Chantel speaks at our event, and we're so happy to see you back, Chantel. So without further ado, welcome everyone, Chantel Botha.
Thank you, and so much thanks for inviting me back to this event. So this afternoon, I want to share with you how we turned disappointment into delight for a bank. Now, give me just an idea. Who's in financial services, banking, insurance? Okay, there we go. A few hands. All right, excellent. Now, the reason why I'm passionate about sharing this particular case study with you is I do believe that it is more difficult in financial services, right? We work across industries. And the tough thing about financial services is most financial services organizations didn't start yesterday, right? Some of the financial services organizations we work with is like over 100 years ago, 100 years old, right? Now, in 100 years, you build up a lot of legacy systems that don't talk to each other. You have some strong silos. You're in a very compliance-driven environment. So often, the banking leaders that we engage with, when we say to them it's possible to turn disappointment into delight, they have this strong inner critic and this cynic that says, geez, it's been hard. It's been hard to do this. So I want to share this case study with you that's got magnificent results. And we're going to talk a little bit bigger than journey mapping, right? Because often the sad part of sorry, let me just get my slides to advance. Often the sad part of journey mapping is there's so many people that have done the most brilliant things, but there's so many unimplemented ideas that get trapped in journey maps, and that's an absolute tragedy. Now, I have spent many years designing journeys, and I was one of the people standing next to this grave every month and burying my ideas because they didn't get implemented. And obviously I got slightly pissed off and I wanted to blame someone, right? When you get pissed off, you want to blame someone. And I thought, well, maybe it's my leadership team. They're a bunch of assholes, right? That's why my ideas don't get implemented. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's the technology, right? It's the amazing things that we capture these journey maps in, and maybe it's UXPressia. That's why my ideas don't get implemented. But I got to the, no, definitely not UXPressia, but I got to the answer. And the answer was really around the process that I followed, right? Who likes cake? Anybody in the audience like cake? Okay, my favorite is chocolate cake, right? But I have baked some of the most terrible chocolate cakes. And you know why? Because I don't like following recipes, right? So I just mix a little bit of this and I fudge up the steps, right? And then I get to something that's, I don't know, not chocolate cake, more like a lava brownie mess, right? So it's really important to have the recipe right when you want to bake the perfect cake. And in the session, I want to show you that recipe, and I've simplified it because we don't have so much time today, but I'm going to zip through this quickly. But before I go there, I would like to just tell you a little bit about us, right? I founded Brandlove, and we serve customer experience teams in large organizations. And I'm very, very passionate about empowering people to be able to do this themselves, right? I train a lot of people. We're a approved training provider for the CXPA. And I was so keen on teaching people everything I know that I put it in a book. And the book is called The Customer Journey Mapping Field Guide. And you can see there, I'm kind of crazy about people just loving the book and implementing it. And the book tells you everything that the consultants probably don't want you to know, because I want teams across the world to be able to do this themselves. That's the most sustainable way of implementing customer-centered transformation. Let's just first do some engagement, right? So I want you to pick up your phone and you're going to use menti.com. You want to scan that QR code, or go to menti.com and put in that code 38044086. This is going to be your remote control for me. Okay. This is how you're going to control me. And when you land on that page, give me a thumbs up. Give me some love. We all need a little bit of love. Alrighty. So first, I want you to do a check-in. You should be seeing an image with some sheep. Just press on the sheep that most represent what you feel today. You all see the sheep? Okay, I'm just going to flip my screen quickly and just share the sheep screen. Okay. Woohoo, I love number 3 there. Sheep can also have a bad hair day. Okay, great job. Great job. Number 9. You know, I feel like number 9, but we're kind of alone there in that corner, right? Can you believe it's June? It's insane how time has flown. Tell me, what's your biggest challenges if you are doing journey mapping today, or if you've got a team inside your organization responsible for this? Tell me, what are you struggling with? What's your biggest challenge? Thank you for those answers. Alrighty, let me just scan through these quickly. So gathering data, persuading leadership, eliciting the proper emotions from customer experience. It takes a long time, absolutely. And I would love, once I've shown you the case study, I would love for us to come back to this and I can guide you just on my experience, right? I'm not saying we've got this down to to perfection. There's always these challenges, but I can share with you how we overcome some of these challenges. They become ivory tower documents, disconnected from quarterly goals. I feel your pain, right? For me, the worst thing is that journey map that becomes just wallpaper, right? And nobody gives a shit, and you've poured your life and your heart and your soul into it. There's so many steps in so many users, getting the time to do it, dedicated the time. I think we find so many teams in organizations have a day job, and then someone's told them we need a customer journey map, right? And they give these slices of time to it when it's actually a full-time focus, or it needs to be done at least in time blocks. All right, fantastic. I really appreciate you giving me this guidance. So, let me take you on a journey. And I want to share with you the story of a bank that once upon a time they were such a loved bank. They won awards for being the most innovative bank in the world. And with time, they grew and they got more customers and they got more products. They widened their product offering. They increased the number of systems and they had more and more employees. And because they won so many awards, they probably became a little bit complacent. And this started happening. The perception of customers not feeling that the brand promise was delivered kept on surfacing. And the cracks started to show. Customers complained, employees started to leave them, and their rating in the market started to drop. And they really wanted to put an end to the unpopularity that they felt. I think when the press releases come out to say, this is the ranking of all of the banks in all of the land, and a bank has dropped from second place to third place, that's usually when you see the leaders sitting up and saying, something needs to be done now. Right, so we engaged with this team and they said, please help us. We need to get back to where we were. We need to find the root of these issues, and we need to make our once loved brand again the shiniest and the most popular brand in all of the land. So I have simplified it, but I'm going to show you the 3 magical steps that we followed. So first, we engaged. Second, we transformed. Third, we evolved. And I'm going to take you through examples in each of these 3 steps. So we're going to start with engage. And I'm so glad on the previous comments in the feedback you've raised this. It's so important that you let your leaders feel the pain in a caring way, not in a career limiting way. I've done that. Let them feel the pain in a career limiting way. But it's really important. Sometimes leadership in large organizations are disconnected from what the customer feels, what the customer sees, and how the customer experiences the brand. Now, I'm going to share with you a technique that I follow. It's called an immersion. So when I started out as a customer experience program manager for a large insurance company in 2008, I had to bring the reality to the leaders. And what I did with them, they said, well, the moment of truth in a life insurance journey is really when someone dies and the next of kin need to claim. So we did a death claims journey. And one of the activities I did with the exco was for them to fill in the death claims form as if they have just lost their nearest and dearest family member to them. I gave them a set of colored pens, right? On the death claims form, they had to circle everything that they found to not be client-centric in red. And they had to fill in everything on this form. By page 3, they said to me, we get it, can we stop now? And I said, no, there's 15 pages to go, right? And that really got this feeling under their skins. And what they realized on this death claims form is they asked me, why do we ask for the broker name and the broker code the first thing on this form? And when I investigated, that's how the system captured it. Right, so the form mimicked the system so that the capturing would be easy. The form wasn't really built for the next of kin filling this form in by themselves. Also, a few times in the form, they mentioned deceased. And the executive committee, their skins crawled every time they had to circle the word deceased. And there were many other very, very technical terms on this form. During this meeting, I did look at them and I thought, if my access card doesn't work the next day, I should probably know that this was a slightly career limiting meeting. But I went into it with such a vision that this was easy to change. If we just take each of these things, we can really transform an experience for someone who's in grief, someone who's in shock, and that's just lost a loved one. And we conquered that. After this meeting, they said to me, please, Chantel, come to us. How much budget do you need? We need to fix this. We're not proud of what we've seen. And we had many experiences like that, like this one, where we took the real cases to this executive leadership team, and they really wanted to fix this experience. During quite a difficult financial time, 2008, 2010, we ran a customer experience transformation program that led to just incredible improvements in many of the metrics that they were tracking. So it's important, if you want to get your leaders on board, they need to feel the pain. People only do things for one of two reasons: to avoid pain and to increase pleasure. And often executives are just not in touch with the pain inside the organization unless the complaint lands on their desks. So step number 2, transform. That consists of 3 steps: evaluate, extract, and elevate. So let me talk through each of those. First of all, it's really important to understand what is your experience today, both from the customer perspective and from the employee perspective. Sometimes the employees have a terrible experience, but the executives say to them, thou shalt live this brand. And that's really, really hard for employees if they're not empowered, if they don't feel inspired to be a true representative of the brand. We created this really simple health check, and we're going to give you access to this health check if you want to go through those questions. It's 10 questions. It takes about 2-3 minutes to complete. And just looking at those questions creates awareness. And I do want to invite you, if you go through that health check, write the questions down, and next time you're in a conversation with a colleague or a leader inside your organization, ask them those questions. So just like going for a medical, right? We cannot just take someone's temperature as an indicator of what's wrong with them. We need to understand a little bit more. We need to look at both the customer experience, we need to look at the employee experience, we need to look at the promise. How clear is that promise? And come up with a holistic view of what is the health of the organization's customer experience. Then once we know where the issues are, right? So now we've looked at the patients, not only the feed, but we've looked at the blood pressure, we've tested the sugar, and we've got a much better idea what's actually going on. Then we need to say, what is the essence of the brand? What is the real promise? If I ask 10 people in your organization, what is the customer experience you're trying to deliver? If I get 10 different answers, that's a problem. And that's what we find in many organizations, that they haven't articulated the problem. Now, this is a problem for people to deliver it, but also in your customer journey, you need something that's going to be your true north. You need something that's going to guide your design efforts. Otherwise, every journey designer in the organization will go and they'll design according to what they know, or according to how they get given information by many other people in the organization, right? So you need a true north. You know, just like, you know, Picasso had a certain style of painting, right? This is the same. Journey mapping for me is, yes, there's a lot of science in it, but there's also art and a little bit of magic, right? And this is essentially saying, what are you trying to achieve? How do you want your customers to feel when they interact with you? Not just about your brand, but how do you want them to feel about themselves? For me, that's the key to understanding customer experience. It's not how people feel about your brand. Actually, they sometimes couldn't give a shit about your brand. They care about themselves and how they feel when they interact with you. There's certain shops that I just don't go into because the last time I was there, I behaved like a 4-year-old. They made me so angry that I lost my shit completely. And I don't want to be that person. it's not about how I feel about them. It's about how I feel about myself in the interaction when I feel frustrated or when they have 50 processes that I need to follow to get a simple thing done. So this extracting of the brand essence is so essential. I often compare this with, there's many hot sauces, but Tabasco remains one of my favorite hot sauces, right? So if we could take your brand and make it so clear that it goes into that, because I mean, if you take the label off a Tabasco bottle, right, and you had to pour it on food, it's so distinctive that you'd be able to probably guess with a lot of accuracy that it's Tabasco that's on the food. So we want brands to be that clear about what their essence and what their promise is. So the bank that I want to share with you, the case study of, they came up with this essence, happy to help. And you'll see that spray bottle, because once they found that essence, they had to then literally spray it on every person, spray it on every document. Every journey that they designed had this as its true north. And they infused it literally into everything that they did. They also decided that they want to make customers feel two primary emotions. They wanted to make them feel valued and confident. Now, as you're designing the journey, you can measure every moment in that journey against that emotion. If I give a customer a difficult form to fill in, or I force them to go into the bank, am I making them feel valued and confident? How can I make them feel more valued and confident? If I don't respect their time, it doesn't make them feel valued. Right, so it becomes the true north in terms of design principles to get your journeys to really be aligned. Then if I look at the different channels, going into a branch versus doing something on an app, often we find very much inconsistencies between using one channel over the other. So let me ask you, and if you want, you can answer in the chat, do you have a true north for your brand? And is that true north clearly understood by everyone in your organization? And if you have a true north and you go, I'm so fucking proud of that, put it in the chat for us so that the rest of the people can see. All right, I'm going to move on to the next step, and that's really about elevating the experience. So once you've engaged and extracted, you now need to design journeys where you're going to take the pain out for both employees and customers. Often we get so fixated, customer journey, it's so sexy, but we need to consider the employee in that journey. What is their role? What is their pain? What is their struggles? For the people earlier that said you don't have enough data, I want to challenge you because there's tons of data available, right? If you look at social media complaints from customers, you will see them ooze emotion, right? They tell you exactly how they feel. If you look at your frontline employees, they can tell you how employees feel as well as how the customers feel, right? So often we have this untapped amount of data. Just listening, I've listened in, the last 15 years that I've done this work, I've listened to thousands of telephone calls. And those telephone calls, they're like murder mysteries, right? You can make like a reality show of these telephone calls, and there's so much data, there's so much information in these telephone calls. So most of you, if you have a large call center, you will have so much calls recorded that can really give you guidance in terms of what your experience is today and what it should be. All right, so let me show you in Elevate. These are some of the things we did, and I'm going to share a few of these with you. So we designed a customer journey. We also designed this triage model that I'm going to share with you, a conversation guide. We did new KPIs for the agents, and this is essential, right? Because you will get what you measure in your organization. And most of the time when I go into big organizations, I go, please show me your measurements. Show me your scoreboard. Show me how you measure your people. And I've seen some of the most stupid measurements. And they go, but I don't understand why people rush the telephone call so much. And I go, you measure average handling time. You're getting exactly what you measure, right? So if people are penalized for calls that take a long time, they're going to try and get people off the phone as quickly as possible. So KPIs are essential. Then I want to talk about the Brand Warrior Way and show you some of those things. And then it's really, really important that you have an implementation plan. And I'm so glad you mentioned earlier about the journey maps that just become these beautiful documents. Unless there's an implementation plan, jack shit will happen. All right, so let me show you some of these practical things. So one of the things that was key to this bank is to create a persona that's really, really real and human. So I want you to meet Mandy, right? Mandy was pretty pissed off with this bank when we discovered her. Real client. We've got lots of voice clips, a whole recorded interview with her. And this bank let Mandy down in her darkest hour. And she found them to be cold and unempathetic and just unkind. And we unlocked that voice by creating this persona. Obviously, her real name isn't Mandy. We're protecting her real identity, right? But we used the video clip in many training sessions. I met with this executive committee over a period of 8 to 12 months. And every time we started a meeting, we played the video clip of Mandy saying, "It's a cold bank." Eventually, the CEO said to me, "Chantel, when are you going to stop playing this?" And I said, when I believe that you no longer need to hear the voice of the customer, when you've entrenched this in every decision you make and every piece of design that you do. So she became this voice. Every design session, every journey mapping session, we would start with Mandy. And that really geared the designers to feel her pain and to want to solve it. The thing about our human brains, it's pretty amazing. If you throw a problem at someone, they want to solve it so badly, right? And if you can solve it for another human being, that's really when you get amazing success. All right, so thank you, Mandy, for your honesty. You've really helped us do amazing design. Then what you see in front of you now is a customer journey. So we designed a few customer journeys, and I'm sharing with you what I can here without breaking any of my confidentiality agreements. But we did an account opening journey, we did a complaints journey, and then this journey of care. Now, this journey of care was really to help call center agents to better orchestrate any interaction that comes into the call center. Now, Veronica showed you a journey in UXPressia earlier, and all of the detail of this journey is sitting in UXPressia. But sometimes it becomes difficult to communicate because there's such a richness of information. And that information is interesting to many people, but not that easy to consume if you're sitting in a call center. So we love doing these picture journeys, right? So this picture journey starts, and we called this the journey of care, and the picture journey starts with a greeting. And often a call center agent would hear a customer being annoyed or upset, right? Then the second frame says, remember, we've got this lizard brain. When we hear someone screaming at us, we want to fight, flee, or freeze. There we go, Wendy, you got it. So then you calm yourself down, and you do that by breathing, right? So we go, breathe. And then you're going to listen. You're not going to start typing, you're going to listen. So frame by frame, we worked with the customers, the call center agents, many groups to come up with this journey of care. Behind each of these steps, there's a lot of information. What's the moment of magic here? What's the moment of misery? So often we focus on the process. And that would be my guidance to many CX teams when they come to us for training or to coach and help them, and they show me their journey maps, it's essentially a process map. Now, I'm very, very kind, and usually I don't tell them that that's a bull of shit, right? But I guide them nicely to say, listen, we've got to focus on the customer. This is a customer journey map. The journey of the customer happens inside of the customer, not in your systems. Your systems play an important role. But often we train people on the process, and we don't train them on what is the moments of misery that can potentially go wrong in this moment. All right, the amazing thing about these pictures, our brains are so wired for images that, remember the death claim story I told you? That was in 2008, and if they put me on that call center today, I would be able to handle those calls, because the pictures become our script, and the pictures can help us to really sound natural instead of sounding like robots. So we get that sweet spot of still making all of the compliance ticks to say, I did authenticate the client, I did this, I did that, but we do it in a kind and a warm manner. Then the next piece we did, we borrowed from the emergency room. Now, if you've ever been in an emergency room, right, when you check into the emergency room, they ask you a few key questions, right? And those questions help them to triage you. And they triage you so that they can prioritize. If you go into the emergency room and you've got serious problems breathing, you need to be higher up on the list so that you can get immediate attention. But like, I cut my hand last week on a Japanese knife. It was a little bit, I don't know, maybe I had too much wine and I cut my hand. But in the emergency room, I would have waited, right? Because this is not so serious. Yes, it's annoying, but it's not so serious. Right, so let me show you this triage model. Because often agents think, you know, all issues are equal. A customer's asking, I'm so annoyed, I haven't got my card yet. And they think it's a complaint, right? The client's just mildly annoyed, but it's not quite a complaint. You know, it's not worth escalating. So we use this triage model for them to ask a few questions to themselves, to ask a few questions to the client to understand where they find themselves. And then if they've rated the client as a red, you know, the job of that agent is to give them certainty and security, to give them a dose of care, right? 3 hearts. They've got level of urgency, and maybe they need a high level of expertise if it's a red. So this really helped them to categorize where the client is when they phone in. So great tool, useful tool. And then that was backed up by a conversation guide, right? And this conversation guide was used in training, but it also helped the quality people coach the agents to really activate this journey, to say, well, you know, when you greet the client, this is how you can create a moment of magic. When you rush this greeting and you don't speak clearly and you sound robotic and you sound bored and uninterested, that's going to be the impact, and that's a moment of misery. So when you QA the calls, you can use this to have a really, really positive conversation to say, you know, here's a couple of moments of magic that you created, but here's a few places where you missed an opportunity to really create loyalty, to spark an emotion with the client. And then, as I said earlier, the measurements, right? So they were measuring very transactional metrics, which is great. But they weren't measuring what they ultimately wanted the agents to do. And they wanted the agents to care about clients, to communicate that care, to have empathy, and to connect with the client. And they weren't measuring that, right? So those measurements, those metrics, moved from 0% to 60% of the overall measurement of an agent was on care, empathy, and connection. Now, I'm looking at your faces, and some of you might say, but those things are very subjective. How do you know someone has empathy? How do you know someone cares, right? So we had some specific words that the quality people would listen for. To say, well, if the client asks this, this is how we respond to that. Did we listen properly? Did we play back what we heard? Did we empathize with how difficult it is when your bank account's frozen? Right, so even though it's subjective, it's really, really important to measure the things that you want. So we've covered 2 of these magical steps. We're going to go to the last one now. So that's about evolving, and the most important step that I believe many, many brands don't follow through on. So they design these amazing journeys. They might activate these journeys through training interventions, but there's a bigger step around evolving the human operating system. And I don't know about you, but if someone tells me, hey, Chantel, you're pretty ordinary. That doesn't work for me, right? I don't want to be ordinary. I don't want to live an ordinary life. But by following the steps I'm going to show you, you can shift your employees to be extraordinary. And often leaders come to me and they say, can you make my people live the brand? And I say, oh, that would make me feel incredibly powerful to say yes. But I can't make people do anything. But what I can do is I can show them how they can be proud of the work that they do. So this brand warrior way is all about, if you illuminate passion in people and you inspire purpose in people and you instill pride and you upgrade their skills, this upgrade to the human operating system. I often challenge leaders and they say, you know what, we have just spent $7 million on upgrading our technology. I go, and how much have you spent on the human operating system? How often do you upgrade your humans? Not nearly enough. And there's not nearly enough money spent on people in comparison with technology. So if you do these things, you can elevate performance. And that's really what we call the brand warrior way. So let me share with you the results, because I've worked for actuaries and accountants for my entire career. And this is usually the slides that make them have shiny eyes, right? So if you look at this graph and you look at the yellow circled area there, that is 2022. And at this time in August, we had been on this journey for 2 years, right? So for you that are currently busy with customer experience transformations, it takes time, right? Especially in large organizations that have complex systems and that have these siloed teams. But what's interesting here is we did pretty much 2021 was all journey design. Then 2022, we started with the Brand Warrior program, which was essentially activating this journey, upgrading the human operating system, landing this essence of, I'm happy to help. Not because you pay me, but because I choose to, because that makes me feel proud. And then all of these tools that I just showed you. And we started that program in March. By August, we had put 350 people through this program. And you can see in August, compliments exceeded complaints, probably for the first time in the history of tracking this. Right, so June started a little bit better, July a little bit better, and you can see that big jump in August. And that's all people, right? I don't take the credit for this. My team doesn't take the credit for this. It's the 350 people that went through this program that all started doing things slightly differently. Also, they've got fancy sentiment analysis tools and the sentiment change. So by the software looking at the calls, they could see positive emotions increasing and negative emotions decreasing. So my invitation to you is, it might feel daunting, right? Whatever you're doing right now, it might feel really daunting, and sometimes we get discouraged, but it's amazing. And I want to say thanks to UXPressia for bringing together this community, because I think just by voicing some of our challenges here and by learning from each other and supporting each other, you know, we can do this. So follow these 3 steps, engage your leadership, do this transformation piece in the middle, and then please don't forget the human operating system.
Now is the perfect time for the questions, and I just want to remind you to type them into the chat. So, and while you're coming up with the questions, I wanted to remind you and mention it for those who joined us a little bit later, that our UXPressia team offers to audit your journey mapping process to help you find the weak spots and the ways to see how they can be improved. So feel free to book a 30-minute call with our team via the link in the chat. I guess you can already see that, to get a PDF document summarizing the key findings from the journey mapping process audit and additional materials from our experts. So I believe I gave some room for people to type their questions in the chat, and we can move on with them. So the first question that we have here is in the context of banking, what are some key touch points or stages in the customer journey that banks should pay special attention to when conducting journey mapping?
Amazing. So the approach we usually take is we do a macro journey, right? We map the journey end to end, and we almost sweep at a high level through that journey, right? So from the time you become aware of a specific account, going through account opening, to having this transactional bit in the middle. You know, sometimes there's significant things in the life stage of the customer when they have a bank account with you. They might buy a car or they might buy a house, which is really, really big ticket items in terms of how people spend their money. So sweep through the journey, build a macro journey, and then many organizations, when they start at the start of the journey and they do it methodically from the start of the journey, and they've identified so many moments in that journey, they get stuck. It's like quicksand, right? And they feel like they're just going to be busy forever and ever and ever. So the approach that I prefer is, first of all, go to the pain. Where's the biggest pain in your journey? Overlay the pain with volumes, right? So let me give you an example. In the insurance business that I mentioned earlier, the biggest interaction with customers is an annual portfolio statement, right? And that portfolio statement is such an important thing in the life of a customer, because that tells them, are you on track with how you're insured and how you invest? But that thing is so ugly that nobody wants to look at it. And it's so difficult to read that people can't see from that terrible document whether, you know, they don't understand anything on there. So if that gets sent to 2 million customers annually, that's the place where you want to make a shift. Because if you combine volume with pain, that's going to give you your biggest results. All right, I hope that has answered your question. I want to just address a different thing because I saw it earlier on the challenges. These things take a lot of time. So what we do is we time box it. We time box it into 3-month design sprints, right? Otherwise you'll design forever and ever and ever. So your design team takes a 12-week period, and they divide that up into a set of workshops. And what we usually do, because the stakeholders that you need inside your organization, they're usually not sitting around drinking coffee. They're usually incredibly busy. So what we do is we identify the stakeholders that need to be on this journey, and then we contract with them. We will need you every 2 weeks for 3 hours, or we will need you every 2 weeks for 2 2-hour workshops. Those workshops will be set up for the 12 weeks in advance. It'll happen on a Tuesday and a Thursday morning from 9 to 11. Please don't have your design workshops in the afternoon. All right. By the afternoon, people have used all their mental capacity and they have no more energy to really innovate. We also bring a lot of interesting things into our workshops, right? So you've seen the little exercises that we do. We do a lot of design virtually, and we make it interesting. So what people don't do in the design efforts is they don't make things interesting. You need to make your design sessions so interesting that that is the thing that your stakeholders want to come to. That's the one thing that they prioritize because they actually enjoy it. They enjoy coming to a place where it's safe to give their ideas, where it's safe to challenge, where the facilitators are skilled. And that's really, we have an incredible passion to teach people how to do that. You know, we're not a consulting firm. We create learning experiences for teams so that they can do that. They know how to make their meetings the most interesting in the world. And what I'll do, Veronica, I'm just thinking, what I'll do for your audience, I'll give a special voucher. If you wanted to attend our training, I will make sure that I send you that info. So time box your design sprints, otherwise they will carry on forever and ever and ever. And you need to be like a journalist, right? You need to tell your executive team, guys, we are now 2 weeks into our design sprint. There's 3 ideas that come up that I want to share with you. You need to take your executive team on this journey. Otherwise, you get to the end of your design, you go, oh, we need to show you this journey. We're going to have to lock you up for 8 hours because there's such a shitload of detail, right? We're going to bore the crap out of you, and then we're going to ask you for $2 million to do something about this. That's why journey mapping efforts often fail, is because we haven't shared in bite sizes. And I saw a beautiful comment about prioritizing. You need to have a robust prioritization process because you will not be able to do everything that you identify in this process. Sorry, I talk myself out of breath. I get so excited. Okay, next question.
Thank you, Chantel. We're a little bit over time, so let's answer like 3 more questions here. So we have a question from Christoph. Do you need to establish personas before conducting your journey mapping process?
Oh, Christopher, it's like a rabbit hole, right? If you ask an agency to come up with personas, they're going to charge you a lot of money and they're going to take a lot of time. I think having a persona is great. The way we use a persona, right, is to cultivate empathy in your design team and to wake up your executives. That's why we do it. So for that, you don't need a long time and you don't need an expensive process. You need to listen probably to 20 calls in your call center, and you're going to find a call where you can identify a customer that can be your persona. Sometimes at the start of a journey mapping session, just letting people brainstorm. What do you think is our customer's biggest pain? We often use Lego Serious Play in our workshops, and we let people build a customer in Lego, right? And that becomes the persona for the session, and it works very well. So be careful. You can over-engineer personas, and when I walk into a team and they say, oh, let me introduce you to our 10 personas, I go, these guys are going to have a hard time. They're in a rabbit hole and they're going to want to build journeys for all 10 personas, and that's going to take them down the road the road that's less traveled, and that's really hard.
Thank you. And we have a question from Andres. Can you give us a tip to measure the implementation of our results or insights with respect to OKRs or KPIs?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. So what's really important, we lead the teams that we work with, we lead them in creating a CX barometer or a scorecard, right? Where you identify, before you go into this, you identify what you want to measure. Now, people might say they want to measure NPS and CSAT and effort scores, but as you go through that process, you might want to measure more things, right? Look at your social media sentiments, look at lifetime value, look at share of wallet. So there's many things, and it's, I know some people find it very intimidating kind of looking at the metric side of it, but it is so important. I used to think every CFO that I worked with is an asshole, but you know what? They're actually just doing their jobs. They need to make sure that you track things that you do so that you can understand which are the levers that give you the most benefit. So it's important to have a scorecard We've got a few recipes, right? But it's that's probably, Veronica, that's probably a whole session on its own, just looking at all of the ROI metrics and measurements.
Thank you, Chantel. And we have a question from Susan. Can you review the timeline for the process? How long should you allow for the 3 steps? Allot for the 3 steps.
So I'm gonna give you the world according to Chantel. I think, whatever time your executives give you to improve customer experience, take whatever you can get, right? But I think so many CX teams come to us and they go, we've lost credibility, that they don't want to give us more money, we feel like we're not delivering properly. And I go, well, what have you done? They go, no, we've worked really hard for the last 6 months. And they're sitting in a bank that's got 3 different segments of customers, and they've got 15 products. And I go, 6 months is very unrealistic, right? If you commit to a customer experience transformation journey, I would not expect to see results in less than 12 to 18 months in the complexity of organizations that I work in. And often leaders are just not, CX leaders, head of customer experience, they're just not well prepared to really set the expectations of the executive management in the organization to say, listen, it's taken us 100 years to get here and it's pretty dysfunctional. I'm going to need time and I'm going to need resources and I'm going to need your commitment that you'll align your decisions with the principle of being more customer centric. And then I can show you results. So I think there's a lot of unrealistic expectations and a lot of leaders have a really hard time and they come to me going like, I'm an imposter. And I go, no, you've got passion. You just need to start managing expectations properly. And you need, people come to me and say, oh, we need to break down silos. I go, you don't break down silos. You build bridges between those silos. Don't break the silos down. You're setting yourself up for failure. Those silos exist because that's how the organization measures people in those teams. Start building bridges. Start focusing on what's the critical relationships that you need to nurture. And this is not go and play golf with someone. This is have the critical conversations about how can I serve you? What pain do you have? The most powerful question that someone ever asked me, I was complaining about my boss. I just thought he completely just was an asshole. And they said, how does he get measured? And how do you contribute to his success? And I go, oh shit. I probably introduce a lot of risk with my ideas. So I think being strategic is really important. All right. Next question.
Thank you so much. And we have one more question. Can you give like 3 tips on creating personas for contact center to create a good CGM for those calling?
So for the contact center, you actually need a customer persona. And so what I love with customer personas is if you find something, a bit of drama, right? So you need to be able to tell a story with a bit of drama. So if the customer uses foul language or they say, well, you didn't pay my insurance claim and my children had to sleep outside, or they had cold showers for 2 weeks, right? That makes for a nice story. And you want to be an expert storyteller in your organization. And then for the contact center, you also need a persona for the contact center agent. And if you can find a bit of drama there and make them lovable and make them so the executives care more about them, then you're going to build an amazing journey, because you want to show in your journey, you want to show what's the interaction between my contact center agent and the customer. And how can I empower the contact center agent to be much better connected with the customer, to be much better empowered to actually orchestrate. This is like stage play, right? They need to be able to, the best teams that we've worked with, we do improv with them, because that's how you get them to be better on the spot, to orchestrate a very different experience.
And thank you so much.
If you want to see more events like this, make sure to check the upcoming ones at UXPressia.eventbrite.com or check the recordings we've got on this channel. Take care, and I will see you around.